For 5 years, I climbed 5 flights of stairs every month to hand $200 to my dead husband's parents. For 5 years, I believed I was honoring his memory by repaying the debt he'd left behind. For 5 years, I was funding the very man who was hiding in that apartment watching me suffer. I'm Kesha Williams, 32 years old, and this is the story of how I discovered my husband faked his death, hid from gambling debts, and let me pay his parents $200 monthly while he lived upstairs spending my money. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it started, to the day I became a widow without actually losing a husband. 5 years ago, my husband Marcus left for North Dakota. The oil fields were hiring, paying good money, and we needed it desperately. We had a 4-year-old son, Malik, mounting bills and dreams of buying a house. When Marcus's parents offered to loan him $12,000 for equipment and travel expenses using their retirement savings, we accepted gratefully. "I'll be back in 6 months with enough money to change our lives," Marcus promised, kissing me and Malik goodbye at the bus station. 6 months turned into 8. His calls became less frequent. He always had an excuse: long shifts, bad reception, exhaustion. Then came the call that destroyed my world. A man identifying himself as Mr. Tate from the contracting company told me there'd been an accident, an equipment failure. Marcus was killed instantly. Due to the severity of the injuries and safety regulations, they'd cremated him immediately. The ashes would be sent home. I collapsed, literally fell to the floor and couldn't get up for hours. The funeral was small. Marcus's parents, Elijah and Viola, cried appropriately. Viola clutched my arm and wailed about losing her only son. We buried the urn in the family cemetery in their hometown in Indiana. 3 days after the funeral, Viola called me. "Kesha, we need to talk about the money." My grief-soaked brain couldn't process what she meant. What money? The $12,000 we gave Marcus. That was our retirement savings. Now that he's gone, we're left with nothing. You'll need to pay it back. I was stunned. Pay it back? Viola, I'm a widow with a 4-year-old son. I'm barely keeping my head above water. That's not our problem. We're elderly. We have medical expenses. Marcus took our money and died, leaving us with nothing. You're his wife. The debt transfers to you. I wanted to argue, to say that wasn't how loans worked, that they couldn't demand this from me while I was drowning in grief. But I was 27, alone, and terrified of losing the only family connection Malik had to his father. "What money?" I whispered. $200 a month for 5 years. That's fair. Fair. Nothing about it was fair. But I agreed. Because I loved Marcus. Because I owed his memory something. Because refusing felt like betraying the man I'd married. So I started paying. Every month, on the 5th, I'd climb those 5 flights of stairs to apartment 504 with an envelope containing $200. The building was in a rough part of Chicago. Old brick, no elevator, peeling paint, and the smell of decades of poverty. But Elijah and Viola had lived there for 30 years and refused to move. The visits followed the same pattern every time. I'd knock, wait several minutes, knock again. Eventually, Viola would crack the door just enough to reach through, keeping the chain lock engaged. "Here's this month's payment," I'd say, handing her the envelope. She'd snatch it without counting, stuff it in her housecoat pocket, and ask a perfunctory question about Malik. "When can I bring him to visit?" I'd always ask. "Not now. Your father-in-law's leg is bothering him. Too much noise isn't good for us. Maybe next month." Next month never came. In 5 years, Malik visited his grandparents maybe 4 times, and each visit lasted less than 15 minutes before they'd usher us out with some excuse. I told myself they were grieving, that elderly people needed quiet, that I was being oversensitive. But something always felt wrong. The apartment was always completely silent. No TV noise, no conversation, nothing. Like a tomb. Viola never invited me in, never offered water, never asked how I was managing. It was a transaction, cold and impersonal. And there was something else, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. Sometimes when I'd knock, I'd hear shuffling sounds that seemed too quick for elderly arthritic people. Sometimes I'd catch a glimpse of pizza boxes in the trash bag Viola would be taking down, even though she claimed they barely ate because of their digestion problems. But I was so buried in my own struggle, working full-time as a medical records clerk, raising Malik alone, managing bills, that I didn't question it too deeply. Until Miss Hattie stopped me in the courtyard. It was a Tuesday in March, year 5 of my payments. I just delivered that month's envelope and was heading to my car when Miss Hattie grabbed my wrist. Miss Hattie was 73, the former tenant association president, and the building's unofficial information hub. She knew everyone's business. "Kesha, baby, sit down. I need to tell you something." I sat on the stone bench next to her. "What's wrong, Miss Hattie?" She looked around nervously, then leaned close. "Those people you're paying every month, something ain't right up there." "What do you mean?" "I mean, the dead don't walk, but I seen someone walking into that apartment who moves exactly like your dead husband used to." My blood went cold. "That's impossible. Marcus died 5 years ago." "I know what the official story is, but I'm telling you what these old eyes have seen. Around 1 or 2 in the morning, a man goes up those stairs with a limp in his left leg, just like Marcus had after that motorcycle accident. He doesn't knock, he uses a key like he lives there." I tried to find logical explanations. Maybe it's someone else. A lot of people limp. This man wears Marcus's old jacket, the brown one with the leather patches you bought him, and he always shows up the night after you bring the money. The world tilted. "Miss Hattie, what are you saying?" "I'm saying check the security camera they just installed on the landing between the 4th and 5th floors. Check the footage from the nights after you bring the money, then tell me I'm crazy." She released my wrist and went back to fanning herself, as if she hadn't just exploded my entire reality. I drove home in a daze. My hands shook on the steering wheel. Marcus was dead. I'd seen the death certificate. I'd buried his ashes. I'd mourned him for 5 years. But Miss Hattie wasn't senile, and her words echoed. The dead don't walk. That night, after putting Malik to bed, I called my cousin Dante. He worked in IT security and had connections. "Dante, I need a favor. Can you get me security footage from the building where my in-laws live?" "Why? Did something get stolen?" "Something like that. Please, it's important." "I'll try. Give me a couple days." Those 2 days were torture. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every visit to that apartment, looking for clues I'd missed. The silence, the rushed transactions, the refusal to let Malik visit, the pizza boxes. On Thursday, Dante called. "Meet me at the coffee shop on State Street." I left work early. Dante was already there with his laptop open. "Kesha, I got the files. My buddy works for the security company. What dates do you want to see?" "The 6th of every month for the last 3 months, between 1 and 3 a.m. He typed quickly. "Here's last month, March 6th. He turned the screen toward me. The timestamp read 1:47 a.m. The black and white footage showed an empty stairwell. Then a figure appeared, climbing from the 4th floor toward the 5th. Male, medium build, wearing a jacket and baseball cap pulled low, face mask covering his nose and mouth. My heart stopped when I saw the walk. Right foot planted normally. left foot dragging slightly, shoulder dipping with each step. The exact gait Marcus had developed after breaking his ankle in a motorcycle accident 3 years before he died. The man reached apartment 504, didn't knock, pulled keys from his pocket, selected one and unlocked the door, slipped inside. The door closed behind him. "Do you recognize him?" Dante asked gently. I couldn't speak. I pressed my finger to the screen, freezing on the moment you could see his left hand holding the keys. On his wrist was a watch, a Seiko with a blue face and metal band. I'd given Marcus that watch for our 5th anniversary. I'd had our initials, K and M, engraved on the back. "Show me February," I whispered. Dante pulled up February 6th. Same time, same man, same walk, same watch. January, same. I watched 3 months of footage showing my dead husband letting himself into his parents' apartment the night after I delivered money. "Kesha, are you okay?" Dante's voice sounded distant. "Copy all of this to a USB drive. Don't tell anyone, please." He did. I grabbed the drive and left. I sat in my car in the parking lot and screamed, just screamed until my throat was raw. Marcus was alive. For 5 years, while I'd worked myself to exhaustion, while I'd raised our son alone, while I'd mourned and grieved and paid his parents $200 every month, he'd been hiding in that apartment. The death was fake. The ashes were fake. Everything was fake. And I'd paid them $12,000, $200 a month for 60 months to fund the man who'd abandoned us. When the rage subsided enough for me to think clearly, I started calculating. 60 months, $200 per month, $12,000, plus gifts on their birthdays, maybe $300 total, plus extra money for medications, another $500, plus gas driving there every month, $200. I'd given them approximately $13,000 over 5 years to fund Marcus hiding from whatever he was running from. I started investigating, called Mr. Tate, the supposed company representative who'd told me Marcus died. "Mr. Tate, I need the original death certificate and forensic report for insurance purposes." His voice got nervous. "That's difficult after so many years. The paperwork isn't kept. Try." He stuttered excuses and hung up quickly. I called the Indiana County Clerk where Marcus was supposedly cremated. They had no record of a Marcus Williams being cremated in that facility in the dates around his supposed death. Every lead pointed to the same conclusion. His death was staged. But I needed more proof. I needed to see him, hear him admit it. I convinced Dante to take me to stake out the apartment. We went on night 4, April 5th, the day after I'd made that month's payment. We hid in Dante's car parked across the street with a view of the building entrance. At 1:32 a.m., a figure approached on foot. Baseball cap, face mask, brown jacket with leather patches, the one I'd bought Marcus 7 years ago. The limp was unmistakable. He entered the building. Dante and I crept to the entrance and slipped in behind him, staying a flight below as he climbed. 5th floor, 504. We hid on the landing between the 4th and 5th floors, where we could hear but not be seen. Keys jingling, door opening. "About time, son, we've been waiting." Elijah's voice. "I'm here, Pop. Where's the money?" Marcus's voice, unmistakable. I pressed my fist to my mouth to keep from screaming. "Kesha just brought it yesterday, $200. Last few months now before she's paid off." Viola's voice. Marcus laughed. "Can't believe she fell for it. 5 years of that fool working herself to death while I've been hiding out." "Well, you got yourself in this mess with those gambling debts," Viola scolded. "We had to help you somehow." "And you have. Every month, $200 cash that I can use without leaving a trail. Perfect system." "What about your boy?" Elijah asked. "Don't you want to see him?" "What for? Kid doesn't know me." Better off thinking his daddy's dead than knowing his daddy's a screw-up hiding from loan sharks. My soul shattered hearing those words. Just a few more months and I'll have enough saved to disappear to Mexico, start over. Kesha can move on, remarry, whatever. I'll be free. I turned on my phone's voice recorder and captured everything. Then Dante and I crept back down the stairs. In the car, I cried until I thought I'd die. Not from sadness, from rage. This man had let me struggle for 5 years, had let his son grow up without a father, had taken my money and laughed about it. The next morning, I called a lawyer who specialized in fraud, showed her everything. The security footage, the voice recording, the fake death certificate. "This is serious fraud," she said. "Criminal charges serious. He faked his death, his parents helped, and they've been extorting you for 5 years. I want them arrested, all 3 of them. Let's call the police." The investigation moved fast with the evidence I provided. Within a week, police coordinated simultaneous raids. One team hit the apartment at 2 a.m. when Marcus was there. Another team grabbed Elijah and Viola the next morning. I waited at the police station, shaking. At 3:47 a.m., a detective came out. "We got him. Your husband is in custody." They let me watch the interrogation through the one-way glass. Marcus looked terrible. Gaunt, unshaven, wearing cheap clothes. When they played him the audio recording, he broke. "I got into gambling debt in North Dakota, $50,000 to some dangerous people. I couldn't pay. They were going to kill me, maybe hurt my family. I panicked. I paid a guy to help me fake my death so the loan sharks would think I was gone and leave my family alone. So you let your wife believe you were dead and pay your parents money for 5 years. Marcus hung his head. "I needed cash. I was hiding, couldn't work under my real name. My parents' Social Security wasn't enough for all 3 of us to live on. The debt repayment scheme was my mother's idea. Make Kesha think she owed us money so she'd send cash monthly that couldn't be traced. And you feel no remorse?" Long pause. "I thought I was protecting them from the loan sharks. By letting your wife work herself to exhaustion? By abandoning your son?" No answer. I walked away from the glass. I had heard enough. The trial was 3 months later. Marcus was charged with fraud, faking his death, and conspiracy. His parents were charged as accomplices. The prosecutor was brutal. Showed the jury the security footage, played the audio, presented my bank statements showing 5 years of payments. Marcus's lawyer tried to paint him as a desperate man trying to protect his family from dangerous criminals. The jury didn't buy it. Marcus, 7 years in prison. Elijah and Viola, 3 years probation, restitution of $13,000, and restraining orders keeping them away from me and Malik. When the verdict was read, I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not triumph, just exhaustion. I went home to Malik, now 9 years old, and told him the truth, that his father wasn't dead, but had made very bad choices. "Does that mean I can see him?" Malik asked. "Someday, if you want to, when you're older and he's served his time. But baby, you need to know, he left us. He chose to hide instead of being with us." Malik processed this quietly. "I'm glad we found out. Secrets are bad." Out of the mouths of babes. The court ordered Marcus's parents to repay me $13,000. They sold their apartment and moved to subsidized housing. Every month, I receive a check for $200, the exact amount I used to give them, until the debt is repaid. The symmetry is not lost on me. With the settlement money, I put a down payment on a small house for Malik and me, 3 bedrooms, a yard, in a safe neighborhood. I changed jobs to a position with better pay and hours, started therapy to process the betrayal, slowly rebuilt my life. People ask if I'll ever forgive Marcus. I don't know. Right now, I'm just focused on moving forward. But I learned something through this nightmare. Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, investigate. If I'd questioned the cold interactions with his parents, if I'd pushed back on the debt repayment demand, if I'd looked into the death certificate earlier, I could have saved myself years of suffering. Miss Hattie saved me, an elderly woman paying attention to patterns, trusting her eyes, and caring enough to speak up. "The dead don't walk," she'd said. She was right. My husband wasn't dead. He was just hiding from consequences while I paid the price. Now he's paying his own consequences, 7 years' worth. And me? I'm finally free. Free from the debt that never existed. Free from the ghost of a man who wasn't actually dead. Free from the in-laws who exploited my grief. Last month, Malik asked me, "Mom, are you happy now?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. You know what, baby? I am. We're going to be okay. And we are. The man who pretended to be dead learned that you can't hide from the truth forever. And the wife he left behind learned that she was stronger than she ever imagined. Some endings aren't happy, but some endings are just over. And sometimes that's enough. I climbed those stairs 60 times to pay a debt that wasn't real, but I only had to climb them once more, to testify in court and watch justice served. And I've never climbed them since.